see that question in your eyes. For what purpose do we remain alone in the dark?
Beginning the descent. Cruising depth in roughly 2 minutes. Stand by.
I ask myself that very same question.
I'm seeing some voltage irregularities on the instrument, so keep an eye out for sparks or flames or anything like that.
Why would there be flames? You did test this thing, right?
This is the test. Closing porthole shielding.
Where's the reason for this quiet rapture? Too few to rebuild, too many to feed.
You're the first one down. All we have are surface scans, that's why you're there. Well, one of the reasons.
Can we just agree this is important? Food, air. We need this, not just the COI, all of us. We need this.
There aren't enough of us left to be throwing lives away, but there is too much at stake not to take calculated risks. Eden doesn't understand that. You don't understand that.
I just want to live. Is that so wrong? Why doesn't anybody else want that?
What's the story, everyone? Welcome back. Today we're talking about something totally different in the world of horror cinema. This isn't a big Hollywood film. It's not some blockbuster sequel. This is an indie project called Iron Lung, and it's brought to you by Markiplier. Yes, that Markiplier. Now, before you roll your eyes thinking YouTuber movie, blah blah blah, stick with me, because this one is different. It's ambitious, it's weird, and it's already broken some charts at the box office without a studio behind it. So, let's get straight into it. So, for those of you who don't know, Iron Lung is a sci-fi horror film Markiplier wrote, directed, produced, and stars in. Basically, all the jobs you can imagine taken on when someone says, I want to make a movie. So it's based on an indie game from 2022 that Markiplier himself helped popularize by playing it on his channel. Now the premise is bleak and intense. You play a character who is also a convicted prisoner stuck piloting a tiny, barely functional submarine called the Iron Lung through a sea of blood on a desolate moon after something called the Quiet Rapture wiped out almost all the stars and humanity. So nothing about this is light. It's eerie, oppressive, and it's intentionally uncomfortable. Now, if you've experienced the game, you know that Iron Lung isn't about jump scares or monster chases, it's about the fear of confinement. So this movie leads into that same feeling. You spend a lot of time in close quarters, your view is restricted, and the soundtrack and silence work together to make you feel trapped in there with the character. Now, some people love that slow tension, the dread that creeps up on you like a shadow, but others found it a bit too slow. It's not an adrenaline ride, it's more like watching something disturbing unfold in real time. And honestly, that's what makes it interesting. Because some horror movies chase thrills and jump scares, but Iron Lung wants to sit with you in the creepiness. It's claustrophobic, bizarre, and it never lets you forget where you are. Now, let's talk about Markiplier himself. Look, I get it. The idea of a YouTuber starring in a horror film sounds kinda goofy on paper. But I'll be honest, he surprised me. Now look, he's not Oscar winning level or anything, but he doesn't need to be. His performance fits the tone of the movie perfectly. It's raw, a little worn down, and grounded in this miserable setting. He carries the movie in a way that feels genuine. The character isn't flashy, he's scared, he's tired, and he's trapped, and Markiplier sells that perfectly. Now, what's especially cool about it is that he doesn't come off as someone who's playing at acting. He feels like he's in that world. Because, to be honest, I don't think this movie would have worked as well if there was let's say, a Chris Hemsworth in there. Because to me, it just wouldn't have been as believable. No, one of the big things people are talking about is the pacing. This movie is not fast. Scenes unfold slowly. There are long shots inside the submarine, long moments of silence, long stretches where nothing dramatic happens. But to some viewers, that's the charm. It creates unease. You feel the monotony and isolation, and that's exactly what the film is trying to do. But to others, it feels like watching paint dry in a submarine in a sea of blood. Now, it's one of those things where your personal taste really determines whether you're going to love it or get bored. And honestly, that's okay. Art doesn't have to be universally exciting. Sometimes it just has to be interesting. Something that Hollywood has been missing for the past few years now. But even if the movie itself is divisive, the story behind it is huge. This film wasn't originally backed by a studio. Markiplier basically said, fuck it, I'm doing it myself. And his massive fan base helped make it a box office success.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
It ended up earning way more than its small budget. Last I saw, I think it made around 17 million at the box office, or from what I believe was a budget of 2 to 3 million, which is an amazing success. And it's even made some headlines for the way it climbed the charts despite being independently distributed, which is actually crazy when you think about it. Now, YouTubers don't usually make theatrical horror films, but Markiplier did, and people actually showed up to watch it in the cinemas. That's something you don't see every day. So, whether you love or hate the movie itself, you've got to respect the ambition. This might be one of the biggest you can actually do this moments for digital creators and independent filmmakers that we've had in years. So, with that said, there is positives, but there is also negatives. Now, what works for this movie is definitely the atmosphere. It is genuinely unsettling and really gives you that feeling of claustrophobia. Then we have Markiplier's performance. As I said earlier, it's really good. It really fits the tone of the movie and it feels genuine. Now, this movie also does feel very distinct from your generic horror movie because it's not relying on jump scares. It doesn't rely on any big action horror movie sequences. And it's also really pushing the boundaries now for creator led cinema. So, for any creators out there who've been sitting on the fence on whether they should pull the trigger on their project or not, this shows you that it can actually be done. Now, again, like I said, there are some negatives. I think the biggest one people have been talking about is the pacing. The pacing is slow, and it's maybe a little too slow for some. There also aren't a lot of big moments. It's really more of a psychological than explosive, almost bordering on psychological thriller. Also, some viewers may find it hard to stay invested because of, well, it's a 2 hour movie. So you may find some people reaching for their phones, which can result in them then missing one of the big few moments that does happen. But you see, here's the thing. That's kind of the point. It's not trying to be Resident Evil, Alien, Predator, or one of those. It's trying to make you feel something weird and tense. And on that level, for a lot of people, it succeeds. So, what are my final thoughts on Iron Lung? Well, to me, Iron Lung is one of those films where the experience matters more than the plot. It's eerie and it's odd, and it also stays with you, even if you leave the theater scratching your head. Now, it's not a perfect movie by any means, and it's certainly not a crowd pleaser in the traditional sense, but It is honest, it's ambitious, and more importantly, it's different. Again, something that Hollywood has been missing for a long time now. So, if you're into experimental horror, slow burn atmosphere, and are curious about what happens when a creator actually makes the movie they want to make, then I honestly think you should check it out. And if you go in with realistic expectations, not expecting a blockbuster, but expecting something a bit more strange and unsettling, I think you might end up appreciating and enjoying it way more than you thought. So let me know in the comments, have you seen Iron Lung yet? Did it freak you out or did it bore you out? I want to hear what your experiences were like. Now, also, if you've any movies that you want me to review, movies, TV shows, or games, leave it in the comments below, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. And well, that's all I've got to say about that. Good night.